14.6 million. That is how many votes Atiku Abubakar, Peter Obi, and Rabiu Kwankwaso polled in the 2023 presidential election combined. Bola Tinubu, meanwhile, was declared winner with just 8.78 million votes. So, you see, the opposition didn't lose because Nigerians rejected them. No, they lost because they split the vote 3 ways. So, they did what everyone said was impossible. Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso, Amechi, El-Rufai, Tambuwa, all of them inside one party, the African Democratic Congress, ADC, the biggest opposition merger in Nigeria's history since the birth of the ruling APC. But then, on April 1st, 2026, with party primaries 3 weeks away, INEC erased the party's leadership from its system, sort of like checkmate. Now, here's how the merger went down. August 2025, Rotimi Amechi plants the first flag, officially declaring his presidential bid through the ADC. About a month later, in September, the architects step in. Senator David Mark is installed as party chairman. Ralph Aregbesola becomes secretary. They call this the Unity National Working Committee, a leadership structure engineered to hold this massive, volatile tent together. And then November comes around. Atiku Abubakar officially leaves the PDP and registers with the ADC. New Year's Eve, December 31st, Peter Obi walks into a packed, absolute madhouse of a hall at the Night Lakes Resort in Enugu and officially declares his move to the ADC. And then, March 30th, 2026, Rabiu Kwankwaso formally joins them, bringing his entire massive Kwankwasia movement right through the front door. Now, on paper, if you are the ruling APC, this coalition is becoming terrifying. These are candidates who collectively outpolled Bola Tinubu by nearly 6 million votes in an election they only lost because they split the count. Now together, they locked down the Northwest, the Northeast, the Southeast, even the South-South, and a huge chunk of the North Central. The numbers aren't even close. If this coalition holds, if they can manage their egos and actually field a single candidate, the 2027 election instantly becomes the most competitive, high-stakes race Nigeria has seen in a generation. But now watch what happened next. One day, exactly 24 hours after Rabiu Kwankwaso walks through those doors and finalized the ultimate opposition alliance, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, made its move. They went into their digital leadership portal, found the names of party chairman David Mark and Secretary Ralph Aregbesola, and deleted them. The official statement signed by National Commissioner Mohammed Kudu Haruna pointed to a court of appeal ruling from back on March 12th. The court had ordered everyone to maintain the status quo. INEC's logic then was entirely technical. They argued that the ADC's leadership team was uploaded to the portal on September 9th, 2025, which happened to be exactly 1 week after a lawsuit was filed regarding the party structure. Therefore, technically, those names shouldn't have been in the system in the first place. But here's the crucial piece of context that is flying completely under the radar. This is not how INEC usually operates. Nigeria has seen massive party leadership disputes before, so this is not the first time. We watched the PDP tear itself apart in a factional crisis from 2016 to 2017. We saw the messy internal disputes during the original APC merger. In all of those historical cases, INEC played the cautious referee. They monitored the chaos. They sent observers to the rival conventions, and they stepped back to let the court system untangle the mess. But what they did not do is wipe a party's entire national leadership off their official portal. Because when you do that, you are freezing the party's legal ability to hold congresses. You block their conventions. You strip them of the power to even submit a list of candidates. So, here's the question. Does INEC suddenly want Bola Tinubu to run in 2027 completely unopposed? And this is where the timeline becomes the real enemy. Party primaries are officially scheduled to open on April 23rd. That is exactly 3 weeks from now. So without a legally recognized leadership structure, the ADC cannot conduct those primaries. They cannot legally submit their candidates. If this stands, the biggest political coalition in modern Nigerian history cannot even participate in the 2027 election cycle. But if you think this INEC freeze is just some isolated bureaucratic glitch, you are in fact not looking at the entire board. Because while the opposition was busy building this massive coalition, the APC-controlled National Assembly was quietly doing something else. They were rewriting the actual rules of the game. Back in February, President Bola Tinubu signed the Electoral Act 2026. If you just read through the headlines, it looks like a massive victory for democracy. It states that electronic transmission of results from the polling units directly to the IRF portal is now a statutory obligation. It is baked right into the law, Section 60, subsection 3. But you always have to read the fine print. You see, buried deep inside that exact same section is a tiny legal provision. It states that in the event of a communication failure, the manually signed results sheet instantly becomes the primary legal document for collation. The Act does not define what this communication failure is. It doesn't even create any kind of independent body or technical committee to verify if a network outage was in fact a genuine glitch or a deliberate shutdown. Now, the government will point to the penalties and say the new law boasts a mandatory 10-year prison sentence for anyone caught deliberately sabotaging the election by intentionally falsifying or rigging election results. This sounds tough, right? But here's the trick. With this new amendment, you don't even have to sabotage anything. You don't have to hack a server or smash a router. All you need to do is look at the manual result sheet, claim there was a communication failure, and then shrug. No crime, no 10 years in a cell. The manual sheet becomes the law. And the people who actually know how this system works are already sounding the alarm. Mike Egini, a former INEC resident electoral commissioner, went on record calling this the absolute worst electoral act in the history of Nigeria. IPAC, the umbrella body for all political parties, demanded an urgent, immediate amendment. Civil society groups, they marched on the National Assembly 4 separate times, and 4 separate times the police met them with tear gas. But we have all seen this movie before, haven't we? This is the same IRS system that mysteriously failed to upload results from roughly half of all polling units during the 2023 election. A catastrophic failure that even the EU Election Observation Mission flat out said undermined the entire democratic process. However, the Electoral Act 2026 doesn't fix that vulnerability. It merely legalizes it. And while the laws were quietly being rewritten and the opposition's mega coalition was being systematically frozen out of existence, the APC on its own part was busy building something else entirely, a winning machine. Now, take a look at the political map of Nigeria today. The ruling APC now controls at least 31 of the 36 states. Right after the 2023 elections, that number was 20. The PDP alone lost 10 of its 13 governors. The vast majority of them simply crossed the aisle and defected to the ruling party. On one single day, March 31st, 27 members of the House of Representatives crossed the floor. 14 of them went straight to the APC. And here's the kicker. 8 of those members were NNPP reps from Kano. Kano is Rabiu Kwankwaso's absolute stronghold, his home base. And they jumped ship right after their own governor, Abba Kabir Yusuf, defected to the ruling party. The APC is not just expanding now. They are locking down the entire board. They held their national convention on March 28th. The entire National Working Committee was returned by consensus. There was zero contest, zero dissent. This is what a well-oiled political juggernaut looks like. They are organized, heavily funded, and operating in perfect ruthless unison across all 36 states. But the opposition, the biggest political coalition in modern Nigerian history, is currently sitting in the dark, desperately fighting for the legal right to simply exist on an INEC database. Now, this is a part of the story that should genuinely terrify everyone, regardless of what color flag you wave or which political party you support. You see, in December 2025, IAGA Africa ran a national voting intention survey. They found that only 45% of Nigerians have any sort of confidence left in INEC's ability to run a credible election. An Afrobarometer survey put that number even lower, at a staggering 23%. But if you want to see where the real crisis is, look at the youth demographic. Among young Nigerians, 73% flat out do not trust the Electoral Commission at all. And here's the crazy part. The people running this system, they know this. In fact, in October 2025, Professor Joash Ojo Amopiton took over as the new chairman of INEC, replacing Mahmoud Yakubu. Since taking the job, the new INEC chair has repeatedly used the phrase trust deficit in at least 3 separate public appearances. He said it to the INEC press corps just last month on March 19th. He said it down in Uyo. He said it directly to the National Peace Committee. He is in fact the very first INEC chairman in the history of Nigeria to openly, repeatedly admit that his own institution is fundamentally not trusted by the people it serves. When you look at voter turnout over the last 2 decades, it looks like a heart monitor flattening. It has absolutely collapsed, plummeting from over 60% in 2003 all the way down to a dismal 26.7% in 2023. But when you ask the people what they plan to do, 77% told IAGA they fully intend to show up and vote in 2027. 76% still genuinely believe their vote can actually influence the outcome. The desire to vote hasn't died. They believe in democracy. It hasn't died. But the trust has. And that is the problem. I know, before you clicked on this video, you probably thought the 2027 election was 9 months away. In fact, you might have thought the campaign hadn't even started yet. But now, you know the truth. The election isn't next year. The election is happening right now. It is already being shaped by the quiet magnets of power. It is being decided by an electoral act that legally protects a massive transmission loophole, by an electoral commission that just throws the single biggest opposition platform out of existence. And it is being controlled by a ruling party that has systematically swallowed 31 state governments and is absorbing its rivals' infrastructure in real time. And it is being shaped by a massive nationwide voter revalidation exercise kicking off on April 13th. An exercise that the opposition is screaming will disenfranchise millions of voters before a single ballot is even printed. So my honest question is INEC being a player or a referee in the current Nigerian election cycle?